Hi, welcome to Voices. I am your host, Keith Major. Last week, we promised you a two-part program. Last week, we spoke about a conference with Pastor Burrows and the special needs that the church wanted to develop. Today, we've gone one better. Today, we have in our studio one who is blind, but who has accomplished a lot. We have one who is a former president of the Blind Association, former president of the Disabled Association, former first elder. We have one who uses a computer, a blind man, and he is in our studio today. Please welcome Elder Desmond Brown. Elder Brown, welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, sir. Nice being here.
All right, I look forward to a wonderful conversation with you, sir,
Yes.
on who Desmond Brown is.
Wow.
And let's start with that, sir. Who is Desmond Brown?
Desmond Brown is born in Jamaica, moved to the Bahamas in 1985. Let me go back a bit. I got blind at the age of 15 after experiencing sight problem from maybe age of 3-year-old, from the age of 3. I got blind at the age of 15, went to the school for the blind in Jamaica where I got my education up to secondary school education. Left, I did a number of courses in different stuff like business management and stuff like those. And I left Jamaica in 1985 when I came to the Bahamas. And soon after I came to the Bahamas, I became a Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay, and how did that happen?
Well, it happened, I was invited to a Revelation seminar in 1985 with the late Pastor Keith Albury, and at the then Anglican Church. And out of that, I got baptized and became a member of the church.
That was 1985.
That's way back in 1985.
Okay, and so you, since 1985, you got involved in the association, the Blind Association here?
Yes, when I came here in the 80s, there was no organization for the blind, really. And we got together and we started what we call the Bahamas Alliance for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And later I became a 2-term president for that organization after serving different capacities. And still a member of that organization, although I'm not as active as I once was, but still a member of that organization. I also got involved with the Disabled Persons Organization and served, I think I served as an executive officer of that organization for some 17 years. Also a 2-term president, still a member of that organization. So I'm active in the disability movement. I'm also a Toastmaster.
All right, sir.
I'm a part of the Toastmaster program. So I try to involve myself in as much as I can.
You don't seem to have allowed the disability of blindness to be a disability. You seem to have, you have your computer in front of you. I can send you an email. You'll send me one back. How is it internally that you, what was it in you that caused you to rise above what could have been very depressing?
Let me say that blindness in itself, as you rightly said, can be depressing. It is devastating. But when I became blind, I realized that, hey, life goes on. And it makes no sense sit down there and wallow, so to speak, in the fact that I'm blind. I have a life, I have to live, and I have to live it the best way as possible. So I determined that I'm not going to let the blindness keep me down. I'm going to do what I can to rise above that, although remembering that I'm still blind, and because there are some limitation, of course, there are some limitation, but to try to rise above them as much as I possibly can.
Yeah. How do you find, how do you find people are prejudicial against you, against the blind? How do you gain acceptance? Is there a challenge with that, or have you ridden over that?
There is a challenge. It's getting better, okay? It's getting better in the Bahamas, and I dare say worldwide because of public education. But a lot of people still view persons who are blind and other persons with disability as persons who just there and cannot do anything. And I say that most people, not most people, a lot of people tend to see the disability before they see the person.
Okay.
When it should be the other way around. We should look to see the person and then the disability, because the person is more important than the disability. So that's the problem, where we tend to see the disability and we treat people because that, in a negative way sometimes, because of the disability and because of the fact that we ourselves are ignorant of what really constitutes a disability.
You say they treat you negative. What are some of the negative type? I can't imagine a person treating a blind person negatively. What are some of the negatives that you experience? And do you experience them in the church?
Yeah, let me tell you. People, a lot of people, even in the church, for example, someone will walk up to you and I sitting here, and they want to know something about me, and they will come to you. Is he, and does he want this? Does he want that? I'm right there. Oh my God. You could ask me yourself, but they tend to ask you. You and I walk into the bank teller, it's my check, I go to change the check, the bank teller is going to ask you, hey, how does he want his money? I'm right there.
Oh, wow.
I'm right there. You talk around me, you talk above me, and I'm right there.
Mercy.
Okay? Let me give you an experience. One time in one of our churches, I went to church, I sat down. A brother came, of course a brother came, and he started right beside me. He turned around, looked at me, he realized that I'm blind. Oops, and he got up.
And moved?
He moved.
How did that make you feel?
It makes you feel bad, but the type of person I am, I don't let it bother me. For some other person, it will trouble them.
Yes.
I don't let it bother me because I don't consider myself having the problem. I consider that person having a problem.
See, I'm spending time on these things because some of us do these things and don't realize we're doing it. And that's why I'm isolating some of any other similar stories or similar things go on.
Yeah, a lot of things. As I focus on things of, we're in church, they're handing out whatever they're handing out. They come, oh, he's blind, he doesn't need it. They don't verbalize it, but the fact that they gave the person on either side of me something and just passed over, just ignoring the fact that I'm there. And many times it's not deliberate. It's a fact that because persons are ignorant and they don't know how to treat a person who are blind. Now, if you are giving out information, some pamphlet, now I have ways of accessing the information. Now, I got it. I could put it on a scanner and scan it onto my computer, and there I have access to it. Okay. But you deny me of that by walking away and refuse to give me something like that. So those are little things that we tend to do and don't realizing that we are discriminating against a person.
Let's get onto your computer. You're blind. What you doing with a computer? How does this work?
Okay.
For you?
The computer is a regular computer. There's nothing different about the computer. The same laptop that you have is the same laptop
This is not a blind computer.
It's not a blind
computer for blind people.
And a lot of people think that way.
Right.
It's a computer for blind person. No. The only difference with my computer, I may have some software on my computer that you don't have on your computer.
Okay.
For example, I have a software called JAWS, Job Access with Speech. Now, what that does to me it interact with the program and the system on the computer and read back, tell me exactly what is happening. For example, I go in Microsoft Word and I open a document like I have now, and I press my keys using the same keys that you use, and it will read what is on the screen to me. If I'm typing something, and it depends on how I have my computer set up, because I can configure it different ways. It tells me exactly what I'm doing. If I type the letter J, it tells me that I'm pressing the letter J. If I press the up arrow, it tells me if I have it set up, because I can have it not to tell me certain things. But it's the same computer.
And you configure this, or somebody does it for you?
I configure it. I install my program.
How do you do that? How do you see to do it?
But you see, you don't have to see these things.
You
don't have to see these things.
None is so blind as he who will not see.
Exactly. You don't have to see these things. When starting to install the program, I may need a little site to click on the program. However, I may not, because on the computer come with what they call a Microsoft screen reader, a very small one, not very good at all, but I can use that to start until I install my JAWS or some other screen reader that I'm using. So I do have full access to my computer. I don't use the mouse as you would do, because that takes sight, but I use the keys and different combination of keys to take me where your mouse will take you. And sometimes I'm going to get there much faster than you can using your mouse.
Just hold on, Brother Brown. You're encouraging me to join the blind. If you could see better and move faster than me. Anyway, ladies.
Sometimes.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, very, very special guest, Elder Desmond Brown. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk just a little more about this computer and how you can minimize your disability, and then we want to talk about your awesome church experience as a church elder.
Okay.
We'll be back.
Sweet April, that calls me from a world of care, and it bids me at my Father's throne make all my wants and my wishes known.
Welcome back. This is Voices. I'm your host, Keith Major, and my guest is Elder Desmond Brown. Elder Brown, when we broke, we were talking a little bit about the computer. How did you learn this stuff?
Okay, first of all, I did typing many years ago back in Jamaica when I did a course in office procedures and typing. So from that, I had the background, knowing the keyboard. But many years ago also, maybe about 20 years ago, I was introduced to the computer by a friend, and I did some courses here at the Salvation Army School at the time when they were offering some courses, and I did an introductory course. And then I went to a training center called the Training Center, Computer Training Center, and I did a computer course there also. And that's where I learned, was introduced to the computer. And of course, a lot of it I learned on my own, because you can't go to school to learn everything. You're going to have to do a lot of work. And I just explore on the computer from time to time.
The way to learn how to ride a bicycle is to ride a bicycle.
Right.
Yeah, and a computer is the same way. Well, let's move on to your illustrious career in the church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. You were made an elder, and of course you received some abusive comments about that too. Well, what did they say when they made you elder, sir?
There was a brother in the church at the time when I was first elected elder, who expressed to the nominating committee.
To the nominating
committee? To the nominating committee.
Not you privately?
To the nominating committee, that he didn't think I was qualified to be an elder. The fact that I am blind, and the Bible in the Old Testament says that the priest or person serving should not have any defect, and I have a defect. So I'm blind, so I have a defect. So that should make me disqualified from serving as an elder in the church.
How did you handle that? How did the committee handle that?
Well, the committee rejected the view and still elected me to be an elder. And I serve as an elder in the church for many years. They say once you're an elder, always an elder, but active serving. This year I take a break for this. You take a break? I take a break.
You're resting?
Well, resting from actively serving as elder, but I'm still in the church working.
Didn't you rise to first elder?
Yes.
Some people say no such thing as first elder. They say it's head elder. Or it's not head elder, first elder. Whichever. Whichever.
Yeah.
Didn't you serve as that for
I served as head elder for a number of years in the Philadelphia church.
Seventh-day Church, yes.
And it was a wonderful experience. I had, for the most part, the support of the vast majority of the members. They supported me and worked with me, and they showed me the respect for the most part. Of course, at all times you're going to have one or two persons who...
Yeah, but we want to talk about those one or two persons.
We're not going to talk about those two persons.
We're not going to call their name, but we want to know what these people are saying, because we want to clean this mess up. But before you go on, I just wanted to say, you know, I'm a person that often I'm invited to speak to a lot of our churches. And when you are in the back room, waiting to go up, especially if the pastor's gone to another church, you get to see the efficiency of the head elder, quote unquote. And I spoke at your church a few times when you had to deal with me. And you are the most efficient I've seen anywhere of anybody. And I was just amazed at how you were moving around, even though you were blind. You had everything in order and that sort of stuff. You were very efficient. In that regard.
Well, the thing about it, what you have to do when you know that you are at a disadvantage is to prepare yourself. You know your lineup, you know the program, so therefore you prepare yourself even before you come to the church. So therefore you have a smooth running. You just need to say what's going to take place and stuff like that. And of course, other elders, there are information that I need to get. I'll ask the other elders or deacons to get this information so that I can have it to make the decision to move forward.
Okay. And you had good support from those other elders around you?
I had good.
Was there a Judas in the group?
Well, I don't know if there was really a Judas in the group. Of course, at sometimes you don't have the support that you think you should should get. But as I said, for the most part, persons do come around and work the way they should work. So I enjoy that greatly. Of course, there are challenges in every church, in any organization. When you're in leadership, there are challenges that you have to get around. But for the most part, it was wonderful.
Can you read political movements by people even though you can't see? Can you read it?
You can see, you can feel it, you can hear it sometimes. A lot of stuff that is unsaid, you hear, even though it wasn't said.
Yes,
You hear it, and sometimes as a blind person, I find myself, you have to get so in tune with what's going on till you have to you'll pick up those things around you that's happening around you. People talking across you, they may not be saying anything, but you just pick it up. Somehow you just know certain things that is happening. So those things you are sensitive to.
Could you then say that because of the unpreparedness of the members to you, that it might have minimized your wanting to take them into your group of blind people to try to get them to come into the church?
Sometimes, let me say that I think I did a pretty good job in educating the members of my local church, the Philadelphia Church.
All right.
And if a blind person walk in the Philadelphia Church right now, there are trained persons there who know how to walk with a blind person and have them sit down without having an accident and stuff like that. So I have no problem taking a person who is blind in my local church.
Okay.
Where I have problem in my local church and many of other churches is how are we prepared to really invite persons in general who have disability, for persons in wheelchairs and all those things. Those are challenges that we have in many of our churches because many of our churches are not prepared to really deal with persons with other disabilities. For example, what about our bathrooms? They are not prepared to handle a person in a wheelchair. Stuff like that. A person in a wheelchair, you invite them to church and they want to use the bathroom. Our bathrooms are so small.
Yes.
Okay?
And as I said on an earlier interview, in my church, you have to go downstairs to go to bathrooms. It's a problem. Well, or upstairs.
You see, a problem. We have a problem in the Bahamas, you know. We said we put in a ramp. We go to many business places and we put in a ramp, a nice, beautiful ramp outside. And when you reach to the top of the ramp, there's a steps there. You have to step up.
Exactly. Oh man, this is interesting. My time is racing. I have to move on, but I want to ask a few questions because we only got a few minutes left. How is the church meeting? They tell me I must not use the word cater. How's the church meeting your needs as a blind person in regards to Sabbath school lessons, other material? How are they meeting the need, or are there areas that it has to improve on, and what are some of them?
There are, the church, the World Church, there is a active, I think it's called Christian Record. There's an organization, Christian Records, that prepares, for example, Sabbath school and other material for persons who are blind and visually impaired. However, I don't think many of the local churches are able to tap into that and to make sure that these material are here. Even the Sabbath school lesson, it's available in Braille, okay? It's available in Braille from Christian Record. But I don't think many of our blind persons have access to that here in the Bahamas. And also, even if they do have access, not many blind persons read Braille. We have to face that also. So if they don't read Braille, how do the local church, and I don't think the local church is really prepared to help persons to really study the way that they should.
Don't you think that the church could have Braille reading classes as a precursor to getting for evangelism of these people?
Well, we can do that. As I said, I don't know how practical it is because not many blind persons read Braille. However, what about using the computer? For example, I study online. I study my school quarterly online. Whatever I need to study, I'll pull them down from the internet. Okay? And it's available. But for another person who doesn't use the computer, they don't read Braille, I don't think we're doing anything other than a family member may sometime, and sometimes family member will tell it they just don't have the time to sit down to read for persons. But I think the church can do more by finding persons, resources in the church to really put things. We can record things on a digital tape recorder, put it on CD and stuff like that for persons who are blind.
Yes.
Stuff like that we can do easily. Okay?
And a lot of churches do that, but don't distribute. They'll say, well, come and buy it.
Right.
But they don't distribute it to those who are not shut in, but at home.
Exactly. We don't distribute it. And sometimes you say, come and buy, and that's reality that many of the persons who are blind and visually impaired are even disabled. They're at the lower end of the economic scale.
Yes.
They can't afford to buy it anyhow.
Yes.
So we should, as a church, we should recognize these things and try to help persons as far as possible.
We down about a minute or so, but I will give you 30 seconds to answer this question. So who is the voice of the disabled in the church in the Bahamas? Who is the voice? Who from the perspective of a disabled or a blind person, who is the voice? Or don't you think maybe on the conference committees they should have or we should have a ministry or a department or something? Don't you think, how can all these ideas we have beyond this television show, how can this be enacted in terms of sensitivity to what's going on?
I think what is needed and what the World Church recognizes it, because even I have on my computer now a special needs ministry booklet that's prepared by the World Church. And I think the time has come where the conference, they establish a special needs ministry in the Bahamas so that this ministry can focus on the needs of people with disability, and not only blind, but the hearing impaired, those are mentally challenged, whatever the disability. I think we do need a ministry, and there are a whole lot of material that is available. The special booklet, as I said, is prepared by the union. We can start looking at these things and start making plans, because guess what? Persons with disabilities are souls that needs to be saved.
Yes.
And we need to see persons with disability as persons first and not charity cases. And I think the church is guilty of that.
Guilty?
Guilty of seeing people, persons with disability, as charity cases rather than persons with souls to be saved.
Thank you, Elder Brown. Thank you very much for that. You will be happy to know that in the show last week, Elder Burrows, who attended the convention by the Inter-American Division, came back with the view that we are instructed to have a department like this in every church. But, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes we have to hear strong language, like we have heard just now, that the church is guilty of doing or not doing certain things. A word to the wise is sufficient. Thank you for watching. My guest has been Elder Desmond Brown, and this has been Voices. I am your host, Keith Major. Let us all take a different view and special needs. Until next week.